There are habits so old that we stop noticing them. We're so used to old-style packaging that we almost never ask ourselves a simple question. Can interacting with it be made simpler? Not better, not cheaper, not more high-tech, simply easier for the person using it, and most importantly, what for? Look at any modern package and you'll notice something interesting. The primary job of packaging is to protect the product, preserve its properties, and enable transport and storage. And a standard jar does that job perfectly well. But packaging isn't used every day by the manufacturer. It's used by the customer, the one paying for it. Which raises an obvious question. If the existing packaging works and the product sells well, why would a manufacturer change anything at all? New molds, redesigned tooling, retooled production lines, testing, certification, marketing, all of it costs time, money, and investment. To understand why, let's look at some history, as usual. Syrup and liquid medicine manufacturers started building dispensing pumps into their packaging. Cosmetics manufacturers did the same. Oil and liquid soap manufacturers increasingly use built-in dispensers. In every one of these cases, the packaging became structurally more complex. Extra mechanisms were added, cost went up, manufacturing got harder. Yet companies still chose to make these changes. Why? Because they invested not simply in packaging, they invested in user experience. And when given a choice, consumers will always choose the more convenient option. That is why companies are willing to invest money in new designs, modify production lines, and develop new solutions. For manufacturers, implementing this kind of technology is a matter of strategic survival and leadership. The history of pump dispensers for soap and squeeze valves for ketchup clearly demonstrates that the first player to introduce an innovation gains an enormous competitive advantage and captures the market, while everyone else is forced to remain forever in catch-up mode. The very appearance of such a device makes the transformation of consumer expectations irreversible. Even if a company chooses to ignore this technology, the rules of the game have already changed. The innovation sets a new standard of convenience that the market will no longer be able to ignore. But why is it necessary to monitor packaging innovations and spend money implementing them? Because you have no choice. When it comes to tablet packaging, all the work of dosing still rests entirely on the user. But what if this function were transferred to the package itself? Let's compare not the packages, but the usage scenarios. To make the comparison fair, we immediately exclude the action of picking up the package. It exists in both cases. This is where things become interesting. With an ordinary bottle, the user must open the cap every time, tilt the package at a certain angle, shake it, and simultaneously control the flow with the other hand, and the result is always unpredictable. Sometimes exactly the required amount comes out, and sometimes more or less than needed. Then the user has to either add the missing amount or put the excess back into the bottle. Only after making sure the quantity is correct can the package be closed. This is not a single action, but a complex load on fine motor skills, finger coordination, and the control of force and speed of movement, which engages a significant amount of the brain's resources. Now let's look at the one dispenser. Here, the user sets the required dose once, and it then remains unchanged. After that, every use requires only one action: tilting the package. No flow control, no evaluation of the result, no corrections. The dose is delivered accurately every single time. And this applies not only when several units need to be dispensed at once. Even if only one tablet or one candy is required, an ordinary bottle cannot guarantee accuracy. 0, 1, or several pieces may come out. One dispenses exactly one piece just as reliably as any other selected quantity, meaning the cognitive burden is removed regardless of the dose size. In the context of a vitamin course, where the product must be taken once a day, or in the case of candies that are consumed several times a day, switching to the one dispenser reduces cognitive load by dozens or even hundreds of times. But we have become so accustomed to the screw cap bottle that we perceive it as the only possible solution. Yet if we look at it from the perspective of human interaction with a product, opening a cap is not an intuitive action at all. It is a learned skill. At some point, we were simply taught that the cap must be rotated in a particular direction. and the first known references to screw threads date back to around 400 BC. That means this technology is more than 2,000 years old. But of course, the main question is not, do we need to replace the screw cap bottle? A far more interesting question is this: if we were designing the packaging of the future for tablets today, what should it be like? Packaging of the future should not be complicated. Perhaps it is simply packaging that requires the least possible effort from the user and delivers the desired result in the simplest possible way. Looking at one, a manufacturer may reasonably ask, tablet dispensers already exist. Haven't we seen similar solutions before? Why then did they never become the standard? To answer this question, it is important to understand what fundamentally distinguishes one from previous solutions. First, there is no mechanism inside, no buttons, springs, or moving parts that come into contact with the tablet and could damage it. Dosing occurs through geometry and gravity, rather than through mechanical interaction with the contents. Second, and perhaps most importantly, previous dispensers not only often damaged the tablets, but also required a separate press for each individual unit of the dose. Their operation was not reliable, so control still remained with the user. With one, the entire dose is dispensed at once, in a single motion, with no risk to the contents and with reliable operation. That is the difference between just another dispenser and a solution that completely frees consumers from routine actions. As the examples of Paul Brown's dispenser, pump dispensers for soap and cream, and many other inventions have shown, a technology that changes reality arrives inevitably, whether you are ready for it or not. It cannot be stopped, and sitting on the sidelines is not an option. As Mark Twain said, either you make the decision or life will make it for you, and you won't like the outcome. There is only one question: will that technology be one? Finding the answer is the minimum responsibility of every player with ambition and the will to lead.